Hey, welcome. My name is Aaron, and this is the Wedding Storyteller podcast. Today, I had the opportunity to talk to Gina about everything that has to do with destination weddings and elopements, what to charge, and things to think about in order to get you to that place within your business. So let's dive right in. Hey, welcome. I am so glad that you're here. I've got Gina with me. She is an incredible wedding elopement photographer. Gina, welcome. So excited to have you here.
I'm so pumped to be here.
Oh my gosh. I love your smile. Like, this is one of the most contagious smiles that I've seen in a very long time. Like, you can see it all throughout your Instagram, all throughout your website. I freaking love it. So super excited to have you here again. And I've and I'm going to be kind of like super honest here. When I first saw your page and like when I first kind of started to interact with you via Instagram, I was like, I have to have her on the podcast. Like, she is just a bundle of joy. I love everything that you're doing. And obviously you're super talented. Like, everything that you do is top notch. I love it. So can you give us a little bit of a backstory on who are you? Tell us about your kid. Tell us about your family. Like, I want to hear all of this. So yeah.
Wow. I mean, that was like such a hype intro there. I could live in that moment for a really long time. So thank you for that. Yes, I'm Gina. I smile really big all of the time. I don't know if it's like a good thing. It's not always a good thing, but it's just who I am. I'm really thankful I had braces for like most of my life. But I'm a photographer based out of the Pacific Northwest. So like, I say that, but I mean Washington, Oregon, Idaho area. I do travel. I'm a mama. My little boy is right over 1 year old. I have a husband. We're high school sweethearts. He has his own job, but then he second shoots for me for my weddings and elopements. And yeah, that's just me in like a nutshell, I guess. There's a lot more to me, but that's my bio.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, no, I love that. And I got to see some pictures of your family. Like, you guys are adorable. I freaking love it. So we're going to dive into just its topic of, and actually, no, I'm going to back up. I want to talk a little bit more about you, actually.
I'm here for it.
I want to get to learn a little bit more about you. And I love that David second shoots for you.
Yes.
From time to time. So how did that who started that?
Yeah. Well, let's back up. You're right. Let's back up to like me starting in this because I mean, I didn't always want to be a wedding photographer. No, I was going to do this. It's not like I grew up saying I was going to be this. I didn't even go to college thinking I was going to do this. I thought I was going to be in marketing. So I went to University of Oregon, thought I would like go do the corporate route, advertising, marketing. I really wanted to work for Nike. That's like a whole nother side of me is like health and fitness. I'm addicted. So I love sports. But anyways, my husband, David, he played football and his job took us kind of around the country playing football. So while we're doing that, I got this job at American Eagles headquarters as an image retoucher. And so I was editing photos. So again, this is not what I thought I was going to be doing with my life. I was right out of college. It's like, this is an awesome job. I can sit on Photoshop all day and like wear what I want to wear. And they just wanted you to be creative and fix the photos. And I was like, done. And then while I was there, I like just kind of felt creatively like unfulfilled. I was editing photos. I was in the studio, but I wasn't like having that creative say on like what I was shooting or what was being done really. And I knew I wanted to do more. So fast forward a little bit, I met a girl out there who's a wedding photographer. Her name's Megan Elliott. And she was like, hey, why don't you just come with me to some of my weddings and like see what you think? And I was like, that sounds super fun. I love weddings. I love people. Let me come. So I just went for free and like followed her around and asked her questions and like went to some fun wedding days. And I was like, this is what I should be doing. So that was right out of college, I guess, a few years after college. So fast forward a little bit more, I got booked to shoot my first wedding. It was like a friend that I'd shot on the sides, like college roommates. It was one of those like deep, like long log. Yeah. And they were like, we want to book you. And this was out in Michigan. Detroit, I think. And I was like, yes, let's do this. I want to do this. And to my husband, I like went home. I was like, you're coming with me. And he's like, what am I going to do? And I was like, you're going to hold the camera and you're going to be there in case like shit hits the fan.
Yes.
Because I needed that like little security thing. At this point, like I had a portfolio. I felt comfortable, but I just like, that first one on your own, you're just like, oh my God, this is like all on me.
100%.
Yeah. So I just made him come, and I think he ended up like carrying some stuff for like the bridesmaids that day. And he was just like there to be an extra hand and carry a camera around in case I needed him. But so that's how he got roped into this business. That was, 2014, maybe. Wow. 15, maybe. We got married at 15, so it's 2014. So he's just kind of been stuck in this. And so he doesn't have a background in this. He just has had to like learn from me teaching him along the way. And so he shoots, just how I shoot. And at this point, if he like messes up, we come home and we like look at it together, and he doesn't just like, it's not like a normal second shooter where he gets like hand over his cards. He like has to come home with me and then like get critiqued. Right, and then like, this can't happen again. Or like, I wish you would have done this. So I trust, 100%. So that's kind of how he got in there.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome. I love hearing people's story. Like, because it's like, like 99% of us like didn't just study for this, we stumbled into this. Yep. So hearing how like people got into it, it's so interesting. And I love that you brought him into this. Like for me, I started this and then I brought Yancy, my wife, into this. And it's interesting. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Quick note, whoever's watching, head over to GinaPaulson.com. Go to her about me page. That photo that she has there, priceless. 100%. Like that is Gina, all 100%. So anyways, yeah, I love that. So let's dive into the topic of this conversation, which is breaking into elopements and destination, right? So I think a lot of people have an idea of what that looks like, but I don't think a lot of people know exactly what steps to take in order to get there. So guide us through, what does it look like even from getting started and taking these baby steps in order to achieve a position in your business where you're like, I am fully booking elopements and destination stuff, right? So what does that look like? What did it look like for you, and how might that relate to someone who is just starting out?
Yeah, that's like such a loaded question right there. And it's one that I know so many people are asking all the time. I mean, I get DMs about it on the daily about like, where do I get started, or how do I, get to attract this type of client? And honestly, I mean, this might not be what you're going for, Aaron, but my first question, especially with the last couple of years in my personal life, my first question back to them is like, what about this are you drawn? Like, what do you want? Like, because I think it's really glorified on Instagram, this travel and destination, wedding photographer, elopement photographer vision. It looks really, really awesome. And I would say I definitely had a couple of years in my business where I was traveling every weekend and hitting these really awesome elopements all over the place, gone. And then you have a kid, and my business going forward will probably be a little bit different because of that. And it's not bad or good either way. It's just whatever you want. So that's always my first question back to people when they're like, I really want to do destination elopements. And I'm like, let's talk about your life, because like, what do you want? And what do you want that to look like? Do you want to be traveling Friday through Sunday alone, like in hotel rooms? Like, do you have family back at home? Do you have a dog back at home? Like even things like that, right? Like, who's going to watch your dog all these weekends that you're gone? It's always my first question. But moving forward from there, I think the biggest thing is like, you have to be putting out the content that you're going to be booking. And I know we've all heard that, put out what you want to attract, but like, it's that simple, quite honestly. So if you're wanting to shoot elopements that are like in Mexico or Hawaii or in Europe, like you should probably be posting some photos in those places. And that requires like a little bit of traveling on your end, probably before booking these elopements.
Wow. Okay. I love that. I love how you started out with, what do you want?
Yeah.
You're right. We don't really ask ourselves that. We just want what we see through Instagram,
Totally.
and that is, oh my gosh, I want to go to the mountains. Oh, I want to go to Mexico. I want to go to Italy, right? Like places like these, and they're gorgeous. Like, don't get me wrong,
Oh yeah.
but I know, like for us, we hate traveling.
Exactly. You know it.
We hate
Okay.
travel because and we thought we wanted to travel for a long time until we got the opportunity to travel, and when we did, it was like, oh my gosh, this is a hassle. Like this is really a hassle, and not just like a physical like hassle, but like emotionally, we're like, I miss my kids. Like I miss my family. I just want to be back there with them. Like yes, I know it's 2 to 3 days, but that's a long time, right? So like I love that you started with that. And so experiencing with traveling is awesome, and getting to that point. So how does that work for someone who has absolutely zero traveling under their belt? As far as like, do you go and just take money out of pocket to go to these places and shoot weddings for free, or do you book at like a lower end wedding in order to get a certain destination? What would you say to that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it has to be a specific spot. So if you're like wanting to book a Mexico wedding, it's not like you need to go to Tulum to take photos there and necessarily book that. But clients are looking to know that you, one, do travel and that you enjoy traveling and that you're going to be okay traveling on your own and like in that new environment. Like they're booking a wedding in Tulum because they really want to capture like that aesthetic and like the location and just kind of be immersed in that. So I would say like if you are trying to get content that shows that you travel, it doesn't have to be in that exact, you don't have to go to Europe to get this content, but you need to like show that you travel somehow. So maybe it's more of a local trip, maybe it's a family trip or something that you're already planning on doing. And then how can you kind of showcase, oh, I also take photos like while I'm on the road or while I'm in a new place, and just kind of tell the story of whatever you're doing. Obviously, if you're trying to attract couples, it should probably involve a couple. So I know that I've been on trips with friends, and this, like getting started, especially, like I think we did a trip down to Joshua Tree as a friend group, and like all of my friends and their boyfriends or whoever they were with got photos in Joshua Tree because I knew I was like, I really want to shoot some couples while I'm down here. These are my people. That's
Right.
like how I show them I love them too. So if you can like ever just like work in couples in different locations and just kind of showcase like what you can do in different like areas and locations and sceneries and all that kind of stuff. I think that's what people are drawn to that are looking for that like elopement or destination style photographer.
That's so good, and I love that. I don't think I never thought of it that way, as far as like just putting stuff out that's not local, but actually like traveling to places and just taking pictures there, like, and that just showcase that, hey, I'm actually moving around places. Like I go to different locations and I take photos. I think that speaks a lot. And that's all over your Instagram. Like you go to your Instagram and it's like location after location. It's like, oh, this is amazing. Like, so I love that you hit on that. Um, with traveling, I know you said that your business might change here in a little bit. With family and everything. What is that? Give us a little kind of. I want to get an insight on how does your family affect your traveling, and what does that look like for you moving forward?
Yeah. So, I mean, I kind of touched on it, but going from being gone every weekend, I knew it was going to be impacted when we had my son. But this last year, I was in Washington a lot more than I had been, but I was on the other side of the state. So I was still gone like at least 1 to 2 nights of the weekend, traveling across the state and back. And even that, like being away from him, his like first, I mean, I started weddings back up 7 weeks after he was born. And, and it was wedding season. And so then it was like every weekend, gone, 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 gone. And like we were lucky enough where he was able to come like in the car a lot, and he went to like flew to Idaho with us and stuff like that. But it just kind of made me realize like, I don't know if in the future, and especially as our family grows, like if I want to be gone every weekend. So I think it's gonna come down to me taking control of my own calendar and my own bookings, which is really hard. I think as vendors in the wedding industry, we love people. We love a good story. We want to be there. Like, that's our personalities. And that's probably like one of the hardest things for me is like saying no to people, because I mean, if you get me on a call with someone and we start talking about you two, like a couple and like their story and like what they envision for their wedding day, like I get all excited in this ball of energy and I'm like, I've got to be there. So, I mean, I think being able to like take control of like your calendar, my calendar, and like saying no and just like kind of looking at the season as a whole. I think I still definitely want to travel a few times a year. It's like that really good creative energy when I'm somewhere else. But then still finding a way to be creative, like when I'm not on the road, will be like moving forward my next kind of big thing to tackle.
Oh, I love that. So, okay, this is a perfect segue into the next thing. Like you being creative in different ways for your business, and you're an educator, and you've got presets out as well. So can you like elaborate a little bit about that? Like, how is that going to tie into your business moving forward, and what are you looking forward to through that? Like, I guess, does that replace anything that you're currently doing, or will it replace something?
It's a good question. And so education over like the last 2 years has like slowly worked its way into my business. And then this last off season, it like really kind of just like revved up a little bit for me. We're going to say this now and then we'll talk again in like 3 or 4 years. Yes. But right now I don't have like the intentions of it replacing my wedding season by any means. I mean, I love shooting weddings and I just like love the energy that comes with them. Yes, I love helping wedding photographers, but I don't think that what I do with my education is going to replace my like summers and weddings there. Gotcha. But in the Pacific Northwest, I definitely do have a season. Like out here, end of May normally it kicks off, and then I try to like slow it down early mid-October. So in those other months, I do need things to keep me like creatively like engaged. I'm like that personality that like if I don't have enough to do, like I'll start projects or I'll start businesses or I'll like it's like my husband's like most terrifying like 4 months of his life. He's like, oh gosh, she's slowing down. Like is she gonna start a house project or a new business or like what? Yeah. So this has been a really good off season because like I was really still focused in my business, but just like a different side of it. So we didn't like buy a new house or a new business or build random building or anything like that this year. But, nice. It got close a couple times, but no.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And I can relate to that. I'm exactly like that. Like if I'm not doing something, I'm like, if there's nothing for me to do, I'm going to find something to do, like totally. Anything. Right. So this morning, and this was a great example. This morning I was just sitting at home and I had nothing. And I was like, I'm just going to come up with a filter, and an Instagram filter. I went for it and I loved it. So anyways, and then we have the podcast now. So
yes, no, I'm like all about that. I saw that actually on Instagram. I was like so stoked. I was like, this is awesome.
Let's go. I love that. But no, that's awesome. So I know you have a workshop coming up. Obviously that might be over for a lot of people that listen to this episode, but are you going to have multiple workshops down the road or anything like that?
Yeah. So my goal would be next year to so this first workshop, it's actually next week. So when people hear it, this will be already aired, but next week's workshop is virtual and live. So it's kind of actually like our video we're doing right now, but it's a group of 10. It's live, it's in the evening. So I kind of was like targeting people that are just getting started in this, where if they still have day jobs, like they'll catch me in the evening kind of thing. Right. But I think in the next off season, my goal would be to be in person. I don't know. I'll get feedback after this first one and see how it goes. But the hard thing with the live and the virtual is that we're not shooting together. So obviously, because we're like on the computer. So I have a lot of like BTS videos that I'm hoping will like kind of replace that a little bit, but it is different than not being hands-on, right? So that's the one thing that I'm like, I hope they still get enough out of that. But yeah, in the future, it would be next off season. So probably like next March is usually a good time for me, but yeah, that's the goal.
Nice. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for you on that. Like, I think you're incredible and people are going to love it. So I'm going to talk about chart, like, since this kind of has to do with traveling and like if
Yeah.
you do like an in-person workshop, um, traveling fees for weddings, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, how do you include that as part of your traveling right now? Like, is that because I know I've gotten questions about well, how much am I supposed to charge? Like, how do I know what to charge? Am I charging a flat fee, or am I calculating certain things into that? Like, what are you doing to help you state or to help you charge well without you losing any money?
That's such a good question. And I think it's one that we're going to always be asking, and everyone's going to do it a little bit differently. And so
Right.
over the years, I've done it many different ways, and I've definitely found that what gets booked the most. So, like when you're talking to a client and all of a sudden they're about to book you and you send this price over and then they don't book you, like that didn't work here. So what did work was when it's one flat, like this is how much it's going to be for like the entire weekend kind of situation. So yeah, kind of like an all-inclusive kind of like package is, and it's custom. So what I normally do is send over a pricing packet for my coverage for the day for like a destination elopement or wedding. And I have like multiple pricing packets that are like all tailored towards whoever's inquiring. And so once they get, and it says like travel fees will be like discussed and added on. And so then we get on a call and we talk about their day and then we talk about their weekend. So I'm like, oh, so what else are you going to do like that weekend? Are you doing a welcome party? Are you doing a day after brunch? You know, and I'm trying to find out like how much time can they get me included in this weekend? Like what is all included? I want to tell the full story. And so from there, after this talk and after they've already told me all these things that they're so excited for their friends to be there and do this and this and this, that's when I'm like, okay, so this is what I think you need. And it needs to be, it's the full weekend coverage. This is how much it's going to be. That's going to include all of my coverage. It's going to include XYZ, like photos, all this stuff. It's going to include my travel. I'll book it myself. What do you know, like, what do you think? And at that point, like, they're so invested in like, oh my God, our weekend's going to be so much fun. And we have all our friends coming in and we want them to experience this and we want photos of them like at the welcome party and at the day after brunch and like all these things that like I found that that's the hardest for them to say no to. When I added travel on, because I did that for a while where it's like, here's the package and then the travel fee is this, I found that doesn't go over very well for clients. They don't like that.
So, well, it looks more pleasing when it's like one number and you're like,
it does,
I don't care what it includes. Just show me the number, and if this is what it's going to cost me, you take care of the rest, right? So, like, I think that's what's really attractive to people that are looking at numbers and like figuring out how much are they willing to pay, right?
Yeah.
So, normally, what goes into those numbers for you? Like, obviously, hotel, right? Stay, airline tickets or gas, whatever that looks like. What about like and dinners and stuff like that? What can you just kind of give us a rundown of what that looks like for you?
Totally. So you spot on, which just getting me there, any travel costs that are included there, and other things like rental car. Sometimes like we forget about that you're going to need to get when you're there, and also like in this day and age, if like you're going anywhere, you better book your rental car early because like it's crazy these days about rental cars. So rental car. And so you're kind of thinking like of like a per diem. So like while I'm there each day, I kind of just factor that into my big like wedding package. So whatever my prices are for like a full weekend getaway, it's not like I'm not charging them like for my dinner out or anything like that. It's just like for me to be gone and away from my family and out, not in my own bed for like an entire day, like this is my rate kind of thing.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And so it's funny how once you have kids and once that value of like being home increases, you have no problem like sending those numbers off about like 100%. This is my rate. And if you don't book it, I get to be home with my child. So
win-win, right? At that point,
it's a win-win. Yeah.
Oh man, no, that's good. Listen, if all else fails, if someone's like, I don't know what to include in my booking stuff for travel, you can save some money, get a rental bike. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Yes, and don't you get your exercise in.
That's right. Get your cardio in for the weekend. No, that's super good. I love that. Like honestly, I didn't think of a rental car until you mentioned it. Like, but that's probably again because I don't do a lot of traveling. But that is one of those things where you just got to be aware of. I know we had an issue where we tried to rent a car like on the day of, and it was like there's none. I was like, oh my
There's
gosh,
none.
this is ridiculous.
It's
So that's a
wild.
good tip.
Yeah. I last summer I was like in a place and I could not get a rental car, like for the life of me. So I flew in and I was like, I'll just get like an Uber at the airport. And I got there and there's no Ubers. And this isn't,
Oh
if
my
anybody's
gosh.
Pacific Northwest familiar, like I'm down in like Redmond, Oregon. Like I thought there would be Ubers. I'm close to Bend. And there was like no Ubers, no lifts. There was like one taxi that I literally watched like a person get into and take off. And then there was like this wine tour bus guy and he's like lingering around and he's like, hey, do you need a ride? And I was like, oh shit, this is where I die. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
I'm good. And he's like, there's no Uber and Lyft here and there's like one taxi. And I was like, I'm not getting in your van. So I like called my hotel and they like figured it out for me. But like things like that, you're like, if it was like later in the night, I would have been like terrified. Like, oh my God, what am I doing?
Gosh.
So things like that, yeah. You just gotta think ahead, but also sometimes it doesn't happen.
Oh man, that's wild. I didn't think there would be no Ubers. I thought there was
I
Ubers everywhere at
know.
this point, right?
Literally, yes.
Oh man. Well, I love the travel stuff that you talked about, and everything with just elopements and stuff and traveling. What about and you hit a little bit about this, like your balance between life and work and like how that's gonna change over time. But what are some things that you've done to keep that work-life balance kind of at a healthy point? And I know this is a hard topic because I truly believe that you can't balance work and life. I believe that they're married together, and the best thing that you can do is find places and times where you can keep both at a very similar level, if that makes sense. So give us some like tips on like what do you do, especially for traveling and being away from the family and doing educational stuff on top of taking care of your current clients. What are some of the things that you're doing in order to kind of stay healthy and afloat?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I think I do is like take care of myself first. So, I mean, I work out every day and I just make sure like I'm eating right and staying really healthy because I think if like we're really as entrepreneurs and business owners, like we tend to put ourselves to the side really fast. Like our business comes above us and our family comes above us and our social circles come above us. So like putting ourselves, like even if it's 30 minutes a day, just to like make sure we're staying healthy, like check in with yourself is number one. Number two, if I know I'm going to be gone for a weekend traveling, like the day before that, I'm not going to be in my office all day. Like I need to be spending it with my family and my kids because I'm going to be spending my whole weekend working. So just kind of realizing like it's almost like if you have to take 3 highlighters and color code your week, like what's colors like overarching everything and like where do you need to like spread some of that love out is kind of like how I like to look at my week in general. Like, okay, I'm spending a lot of time working here, so that night I need to spend it here and like just kind of making sure it all evens out. One of the best things that I ever heard, like one of the biggest pieces of advice that I ever received it was like at this seminar and the guy talking was like, everybody, I want you to pull out your phones right now. And so like we pulled out our phones. Or no, wait, first it started with everybody, I want you to take a piece of paper, and we all had paper and pens. And he's like, and I want you to write like your top 5 values in your life, like the top 5 things that you value right now. So you like write out your top 5 things. And it was like family, work, like health, like whatever it is, like religion, faith, whatever. And so everybody wrote their 5 things. And then it was like, pull out your iPhones and go to your calendar and look at your week this week. And he's like, does your week align with like those 5 things that you just wrote down? And like, if not, you need to like start to restructure your weeks that align with like, especially because we rated them. So like if my family was number 1, but like they're not even on my calendar for the week, like no time scheduled, then like, what am I doing? So that one just like, it kind of hit home for me a little bit and made me really like take a step back and be like, I need to start like reevaluating like my weeks and like how I structure them and like where my time is going.
Wow.
Give that a go later.
That is, yes, that is so good. I never thought of that. And thank you for sharing that. Like, yeah, I am not gonna do that right now because none of that
It's
is
a little
probably in my
like gut
calendar.
punch.
Yes,
Totally.
100%. Oh man. Yeah, that is really good. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Um, wow. This obviously, like, we hit the surface on a lot of these things. Like, we can go so in depth with everything that we just talked about as far as destinations, like what all all happens with that, right? But um, what what are some okay, give me 3 tips. So if this was a person that just came up to you, like they have zero experience, what are the 3 things that you would say to that person in order to get started
Yeah.
into moving towards a traveling and elopement and stuff like that?
Yeah. Uh, First thing is I would ask them if they are traveling in the near future. Because if they're not, they need to be. So I'd say book a trip for yourself. Book a trip to a workshop that's not in your state, or a styled shoot, or something that's going to get you traveling, right? So that's step number one, is you need to have content that shows that you are traveling. Then number two is you need to show up on social media with that same energy. So when you're hashtagging these photos that you're posting, you need to be hashtagging these locations that you want to go to. You need to be talking in your stories about these locations. Just make it seem like it's something that you already do, and like put that energy out there. I'm all about like manifesting that kind of stuff. So like put it into the universe that you are traveling. You're so excited to be traveling. You love to travel. So showing up on social media is number two. Number three, I really think that if you're not blogging right now, I think that there's this whole thing about like, is blogging dead? And I like really don't think it is. And I would start throwing up some like educational blogs about these locations and like how to elope in these locations, where to do your engagement session in these locations, and make sure they're all optimized for SEO, and then get that stuff pinned on Pinterest like ASAP. Because I know when I got married, Pinterest was like the first thing. I mean, I planned my whole wedding on Pinterest. I planned everything I wore on Pinterest, like down to the detail. So brides are on Pinterest, couples are on Pinterest, and so using your blog images and blog posts like as a way to get seen on there and on Google, like that's huge. That's basically free marketing. So those are like the top 3 things I would say. I mean, the biggest focus is going to just be like getting that content, because I mean that's the hardest thing I see with photographers starting out is they come to me and they're like, what do I need to do to get into this industry and this business? And I go to their Facebook or their Instagram or just wherever they're present, and there's not recent work that like shows that they do this. And so as a potential client, I'm not going to book you if I don't see that you're shooting weddings or shooting couples or shooting currently. Like you need to be showing up daily. Right. You need to be showing up with the right content daily. And if you don't have that content, that comes down to one, either attending styled shoots or workshops where you can get that content, or two, curating that content for yourself. So that's reaching out to your social network and your circle of people that would do this for you in a heartbeat because they love you, and they will be your models, and they will let you practice and learn on them and get you content because they love you.
Oh, this is so good. I will take those tips as well. No, that's perfect. And so you talking about content, one of the things that I see, and this is one of those where I'm like, this doesn't have to do with any couples, but taking some of those pictures of landscapes that are outside of your area and even putting some kind of caption on it, like that speaks, hey, I travel, right? Like yes. You don't necessarily have to have couples within that picture. It could be you. It could be just a landscape. It could be your family, just like you said. So I love that idea. Anyways, I could sit here and talk to you forever, but obviously we have some time. But thank you so much for hopping on. This has been awesome. I definitely learned a lot from you. I hope that our listeners learned as well. Where can you find Gina? And this is going to be on Instagram. Go check her Instagram out. She is awesome. She's always putting the best stories and content at Gina.Paulson, right?
Yep, that's right.
And then website, you can find her at ginapaulson.com. And then within her website, there's all the presets and educational stuff. I highly suggest that you guys go check that out. She's doing some amazing things. She's a great educator, and I cannot wait to see everything that you do here in the future. I'm super excited for you, and yeah, thank you so much for hopping on. Is there anything that I might have missed that I could plug into the podcast?
No, you did awesome. This was so fun. I hope people like pulled something from this. So yeah, awesome.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you on the next one.